And welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammett, here back for the second part of a two-part series where I'm essentially going back and revisiting my start of season predictions and kind of just evaluating what I got right and what I got wrong. Last week, I tackled the Eastern Conference. This week, it's the West. Certainly looking forward to getting into it momentarily. But before I do so, a big shout out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover. Both those networks continuing to showcase my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Very, very appreciative for all their continued hard work and support. Does ensure the show goes on. I certainly do appreciate it. All right, without further ado, let's just kick straight into things. I'm going to start with a point that I got wrong. Now, my first point is the fact that I thought the Pelicans were going to be a threat this season. Now, I predicted them for a third place finish. They're pretty comfortably in 15th at the moment, with a record in the West of 9-32. That being said, no team has been hit harder this year by injuries than the Pelicans. Their season was essentially over before it began, which I think is a huge shame. The other day we saw in their narrow loss to the Celtics, like it gave glimpses as to how good they could potentially be. I, for one, as I said, I predicted them for third. I thought they had so much potential on both ends of the floor, but it just hasn't been the case. Saw just yesterday in their win over the Bulls how potent they are. And this is all still whilst with Brandon Ingram on the sidelines. We haven't seen them at full strength. And as I said, at full strength, I really believe they're as good as anyone in the league. The question that poses the Pelicans at the moment, though, is what do they do next? Do they, A, run back with the squad that they've got and really make a push at it next year? Hopefully everyone's healthy, fit and firing and ready to go, and really make some waves in the West? Or B, do they offload some of these pieces, namely CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, maybe even Zion? There's been a little bit of chatter about that growing as of late. Is this a route they decide to go? I personally would like to see them have one legit crack at it with this squad. And, if it comes to this point next season and things are still not, in ideal shape, that's maybe when you look to move on. But I think they owe it to themselves to actually have a red hot dip. I thought it was going to be this year, but, injuries don't fear nor favour. And they certainly got a pretty poor rub of it this year. But as I said, I think with the squad that they've got, you look at some of these names. DeJounte Murray coming in, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jose Alvarado, players like that. They've got quite a deep squad when everyone's fit and healthy. I think they're really formidable, as I said, on both ends of the floor. So fingers crossed we get to see that next season. But by no fault of their own, really. This was one that I got wrong. Also, I should have mentioned, guys, got a lot of feedback on last week's show. A lot of you agreed with some of the things I said, a lot disagreed, which is part and parcel of doing this, and I love it. Once again, would love to hear from you on this one, what I got right, what I got wrong. If you guys did your start of season predictions, how are you faring at the halfway mark? Hit me up on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok to share your thoughts. I would love to hear them. Moving on to my second point, and this was a point that I actually got right. And that it was that I had Wemby as an MVP candidate. Now, going into the season, I predicted the Spurs for a 13th place finish. And with that, I had Wemby as a dark horse MVP pick. I don't think at this point in time you can probably characterize him as a dark horse anymore. He is a legit chance at the MVP. At the moment, per reports and projections and things of the kind, he's in fourth position. Behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, and Karl Anthony Towns. Now, at the time of writing, the Spurs currently sit ninth at 19-19. Only 2 games back of the Mavs in fifth. But Wemby's on a different level. He's going to win DPOY pretty convincingly, you would think. He's averaged 25 points, 10.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and a league-leading 3.9 blocks per game, while shooting at 48% from the field, 35.5% from 3, and 87% from the line. in anyone's language, that is absolutely absurd stats. He's grown on his rookie campaign, only continuing to get better, and it doesn't look like there's a ceiling in sight for him. It just bodes the question whether it's this year or not. Like, he's inevitably going to win one or multiple MVP awards. It really is startling. He's just ticked over the 100 games within the league, and his output is second to none. In terms of points, rebounds, blocks, it is really startling stuff that we're seeing at the moment. For the Spurs, though, they are super fun to watch this season. As I said, acquiring a couple of players like Harrison Barnes, Chris Paul, has made them such a more competent team. And pending if they make any more moves prior to the trade deadline, they could well find themselves in the playoffs. Now, at the moment, it would certainly seem as if it's SGA or Jokic in particular, their MVP to lose. But Wemby's there. He's in the mix, and should he and the Spurs have a big second half of the season, it's certainly not outside the realms of possibility that he clinches his first MVP award in his second season. It would be startling to say the least. And as I said, you've got to, I think SGA has a pretty tidy lead. Jokic there in second at the moment. But all it takes is a little injury to one or either of them, a big run from the Spurs and Wemby as well, and look out. So this was a point I got right. The sky's the limit for this guy. So just appreciate what you're watching at the moment. It is remarkable to say the least. Before we push on to my next point, guys, just a quick shout out to both of our partners supporting the show. Hey guys, just Nick here from the Daily Dribble. Just want to shout out and show some love to our sponsors, helping keep the show afloat. First and foremost, Kamikaze Energy, the forefront of sports nutrition and hydration, providing vitamins B3, B6, and B12, as well as a phenomenal source of electrolytes. They are your go-to for anything sports, or even just day-to-day hydration related. Slogan goes, don't need wings when you have Kamikaze Energy. These guys have been supporting the show for quite a while now. Nutrition is second to none. Very appreciative for their continued hard work and support. Go to the link in any of my social media channels or in the show notes here as well. You can find the link to get 15% off the next order with the code CAMIDRIBBLER. So go use that one. And a big shout out as well to LSKD, an Australian owned and operated brand that provides high quality, functional streetwear with a street aesthetic. Now, their slogan is they strive to be 1% better every single day. I think that's a great motto to live by. Now, at the moment, what's really caught my eye is their pace cap in the white colorway. Perfect for my running at the moment as I continue to log quite a few Ks. I'm a bit of a shocker for wearing hats and sunscreen and things like that. You might have noticed if you've been watching the show for quite a while, I've probably got a little bit more colour as of late. That's partly due to the fact that I'm not very sun safe. But hopefully by having this pace cap in that white colourway that I've got my eye on at the moment, hopefully this will keep me a little more sun smart. Guys, support the show and support yourself by shopping LSKD. Get the link there in the show notes and on any of our social media channels. Okay, perfect. Let's get right back into things with my third point. It is a point that I got wrong, and that was the fact that I thought this year Ant was going to become a top 5 player in the league. Now, this is no way, by no stretch of the imagination, me saying that he's been poor. He just doesn't feel like he's in that top echelon of players within the league. Now, his output has been pretty on par from what he delivered last season with the Wolves there, averaging a touch under 26 points, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.3 steals, and 42% from the three-point line. It's been super solid. As I said, certainly not taking away what he's done up until this point, but I don't know. I think he's been hurt a little bit by how flat the Wolves feel. Now, at the moment, they sit 8th at 21 and 18, but it hasn't been overly inspiring. They started the season really slowly, and even since then, as they've started to build a little bit of momentum as the season's progressed, they've spent little time in the national media limelight. Feels like a lifetime ago that they had their incredible postseason run to the conference finals, and since Cat was in their ranks. Now, I still think Edwards is super, super dynamic, and he's only going to continue to get better at 23 years of age. Yet, I just don't think he's in that top superstar territory just yet. I thought he might be off the back of last season. I thought the way he carried this franchise, the way he played with so much swagger and flair and everything of the kind, I thought it was, all signs were pointed towards that kind of potentially MVP push this season. All NBA first team, that kind of realm. I've got that one wrong. As I said, take nothing away from fantastic season. I know this will probably upset any Wolves listeners out there, but I just don't think he's in that top echelon yet. You don't put him in that SGA, that Jokic, that Luka, LeBron, the superstar tier just yet. But I have no doubt in my mind that he will be there over the coming seasons. But I might just pump the brakes a little bit on that one there. So I'll put my hand up. I got that one wrong. Moving on to a point that I got right, and it was the fact that the Rockets mean business this season. Now, the Rockets were a team that I wanted to put high in my preseason projections. I had them 10th in what I predicted to be a very hotly contested Western Conference. I really tried to search for a way to put them higher than that. But the fact that I got right with this was I thought they were going to be dangerous this season. And that they are. The Rockets are a team that have perfectly executed their rebuild. They've paired raw, talented young players with experienced, competent vets. Now, I think they've found a perfect blend between both sets of players. And, if it's to a lesser extent or a similar extent, let's say, like what the Warriors are trying to do by having older players, Steph, Draymond, and then players that are going to bridge into the next era of Warriors basketball, the Kumingas, the Moody's, etc. I don't think it's gone quite as well. What the Rockets are doing, they've found a perfect transition point. As I said, they've got those young guns, Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Armin Thompson, all really, really talented young players that are going to help lead this franchise for the next 5 to 10 years. But then they've put alongside competent, experienced players, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Steven Adams. These guys are not only producing on the court at the minute, but they're helping nurture this young talent that they've got at their disposal. As I said, I think they've struck a perfect blend, and that's a huge part as to why they're sitting second in the Western Conference at 26-12 at the moment. Now, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're playing fantastic ball, both home and away. And they have the league, to my surprise, the league's third best defense, only behind Orlando and OKC. Now, this is a team I'm super excited for. I think they're going to have a fantastic postseason run. I don't think it'll culminate in a championship. I don't think it'll culminate in an NBA Finals appearance. But I think they're gonna make it past the first round, I would imagine. And who knows after that? Very excited to see how they go. And again, a team that I think is poised as well to be pretty formidable over the next, let's say, 5 years. So very well done to the Houston Rockets there. And to a further point, one that I got wrong. And if you're a long-time listener of the show, you'll know that I'm notoriously pretty pessimistic on the Grizzlies. Now, I got wrong the fact that they are the real deal. I had very little faith heading into the season for the Grizz. I wasn't really buying into this young core. I wasn't sold on the fact that Ja would stay healthy. I got this one wrong. I mucked up here. They have the league's best offense at 122.9 points per game. They play with the league's quickest pace. And just because they're so deep and so young, they're able to keep rotating players and playing at this breakneck pace. I think Jaren Jackson Jr., he's having a career year. Really, really just dynamic on both ends of the floor. Greatly increased his offensive output, which I think had been a part that hadn't quite been utilized to the best of his abilities. Whilst Jalen Wells, whilst not the flashiest of players, he's probably the Rookie of the Year frontrunner at the moment, averaging 12 points, 3.5 rebounds, and nearly 2 assists a game. But he's just playing really solid minutes, really solid basketball, and doing it on both ends of the floor. Ja, undoubtedly the franchise cornerstone. He's still one of the most explosive, exciting, and dynamic guards within the league. He really does lead this team in just his effort and enthusiasm and endeavor. They've just got a perfect blend of things at the moment. And from a roster standpoint, if you look at it on a kind of the names on a list, it's not that inspiring. It's probably a big reason as to why I had thought so lowly of them coming into the season. But their performances are certainly catching my eye. They're going to be a tough matchup in the playoffs with this run and gun attitude. They're just going to run teams off the floor as they've done for a big part of the regular season thus far. And to be honest, I've said it over the course of the last few years. Maybe it is time that I start buying into the Grizzlies as a legit team, full stop. It's probably a good 3 to 4 years now that they've been building, improving, outperforming expectations, and I've just continued to bash them. Don't really know why that is. They're just a team that I've not thought that highly of. But is this the turning point potentially? I think I'm going to have to start buying stocks into the Grizzlies. Been very, very impressed with what I've seen. And so next time we do something like this, hold me to it. Any of you guys out there, hold me to it. Nick is becoming a Grizzlies believer, which is it's funny to hear me say. As I said, I've been a notoriously pessimistic person on the Grizzlies train. But we'll see how we go moving forward, whether I can start investing a little more time and enthusiasm into them. And just finally, a little small one, a side note, speaking to the Phoenix Suns, I got wrong the fact I thought they were going to be much more competent this year with the acquisition of another ball handler in Tyus Jones. Apparently not. They're in, I'd almost say disarray. They sit 11th at the moment at 19-20, and which is incredibly ordinary given the roster and talent they have at their disposal. And with very strong reports coming out of camp saying that Yusuf Nurkic is on the way out, there's trouble in paradise. Bradley Beal could potentially also be a piece moved. There's still murmurs around Jimmy Butler. So we'll certainly keep you updated on how that plays out. But nevertheless, a really poor first half of the season for the Phoenix Suns. Guys, pardon me. There you have it. There's a couple of points heading based on my start of season predictions that I got right and that I got wrong. As I said last week, is in part and parcel of doing a podcast and being a, let's say, an NBA analysis. You're not going to get everything right, as I've mentioned here today, but that's half the fun of it. So be sure to let me know your thoughts. Give me scathing reports on what I got right or what I got wrong, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Guys, as we reach the halfway point of the season, the on-court action is only continuing to intensify, as the off-court action is as well. So be sure to stay up to date with all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok to get all the latest news from the NBA and the NBL as the playoffs approach there, to stay up to date with all the latest news. I'm going to leave it at that for another week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that great stuff wherever you're listening to the show, whether on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or watching this one in my mug on YouTube. Certainly do appreciate all the continued support, guys. Till next week, have a fantastic week. Enjoy everything that the basketball world has to offer. And I'll speak to you very, very soon. Till then, though, remember, be good. And if you can't be good at it. See you guys.